and into those processors. Now let's add graphics. For graphics, again, we decided to use the latest and the greatest AGP8X Pro graphics. Twice the bandwidth of the G4, 2 gigabytes per second. We got the latest chips from NVIDIA and ATI, and we power Pro cards. You can put in the really high-end Pro cards if that's what you want. So, next, we start to put on the I/O. Slots. Again, the latest and greatest, 133 megahertz PCIX slots, almost 8 times the bandwidth of the G4, 2 gigabytes per second. We connect the slots with hypertransport into the main G5 system controller. We got 133 megahertz 64-bit slot and 200 megahertz 64-bit slots. And next, let's connect our storage. For storage, again, we turn to the latest technical standards. And that is serial ATA to connect to the drives, 1.5 gigabit per second of bandwidth. We got independent interfaces to each drive, again, so there's no contention. This is an Apple-designed I/O chip, again connecting to the mothership G5 controller with hypertransport. And lastly, the rest of the I/O coming off this Apple-designed I/O chip, we've built in an incredible suite of high-performance I/O. We've got FireWire 800 and 400, USB 2.0, Gigabit Ethernet, Airport Extreme, Bluetooth, and for the first time, optical, digital, in and out, as well as analog audio in and out. So, this is our system, and we're mighty proud of it. We think it is the beginning of a whole new generation of architecture for Apple. So, that is the system. What kind of product are we going to build out of this? Well, the first thing is we're going to build products that have single or dual processors, obviously. Up to 8 gigabytes of memory. We are going to break through the 4 gigabyte barrier, and on this system ship up to 8 gigabytes of memory. Now, why is this so important? Obviously, if you have stuff that takes more than 4 gigabytes, it becomes extremely important. But it's even important in more subtle ways. The G5, as we said, is a monster in terms of bandwidth. And talking to the disk drive, it can talk at 150 megabytes per second if only the disk drives would feed data that fast. But to memory, it can talk at 6.4 gigabytes per second. That's over 40 times faster. And so with more memory, what that means is you can leave stuff in memory and not have to swap it off a disk. This is huge for certain applications. 40 times faster. This is so fast that you can transfer the contents of an entire DVD in less than a second. So 8 gigabytes of memory. We're building in a 4X super drive into all the models. We're building in GeForce FX 5200 Ultra chip into the 2 lower end models. And a Radeon 9600 Pro, one of the hottest mainstream graphics chips around, into the high end model. You can configure it however you want on our website, however. Now, all this great stuff, should we put it in here? No. No. We need a much more advanced enclosure to hold our next generation system. And we've been working on it for some time, and it is really exciting. It looks like this. Like that. And let's go ahead and show it to you now. Here it is. This is an all-aluminum enclosure. This is an all-aluminum enclosure that is super high-tech and can handle the power, both processing power and thermal power, generated by such an architecture and its follow-ons to come. I've left the door open off the side so you can see this thing. It is a thing of beauty. Now, let me show you better on slides the inside. So we've got our enclosure here. This is the front. As you can see, we want to get a lot of air in the front. There's the back. As you can see, we want to get a lot of air out of the back. So let's take off the door. Now, there's a piece of plastic on the inside which routes the air around. Let's take that off. And you can see the two processors, place for cards, place for rotating storage. This enclosure has 4 separate thermal zones. One that goes through the power supply at the bottom, one that goes through the processor bay and the memory, one that goes through the I/O cards, and one that goes through the rotating storage. In this enclosure, we've got a breakthrough. This whole thing has got computer-controlled cooling system in it. We've got 9 fans in this enclosure. Now you might think, oh my God, 9 fans means it's going to be 9 times louder. No. It turns out the opposite is true. Because by putting the fans precisely where they're needed and independently controlling them all, we can make it a lot quieter. A lot quieter. As a matter of fact, we're down to 35 dBA at normal use at room temperature. This is twice as quiet as the latest G4. So, this is an amazing architecture. It's an amazing enclosure that's going to give us a tremendous amount of room to grow. So the systems we're going to build are going to have single or dual G5 processors, up to 8 gigabytes of memory, up to 500 gigabytes of internal storage, half a terabyte, 4x super drive. They're much quieter, using an advanced cooling system, and the very professional aluminum enclosure, super rugged and super beautiful. So this is the new G5 enclosure. And again, I want to stress, we're the only folks that put handles on things. Because our pro customers love them. To be able to take these machines around, swap them in and out when they need to. This is huge. Nobody else in the whole industry does this, and we've kept that on the new G5 enclosure. The new PowerMac G5. It's going to come in 3 models. We got 3 models. The first model, a single 1.6 gigahertz G5 chip, 1/4 gigabyte of memory, 80 gigabytes of hard drive, GeForce 5200, 4x super drive, $19.99. Second model, 1.8 gigahertz processor, step up 200 megahertz, double the memory, double the disk size, for only $400 more at $23.99. Third model, dual 2 gigahertz, Radeon 9600, $29.99. Now, these are the models we're going to have on the channel. Of course, you can go to the website and configure anything you want. So what's the competitive landscape like? Well, obviously we turn to Dell, right? They're the low-cost provider in the PC space, and we configured a system that isn't even as fast as the one that we have here for $29.99. Dual 3 gigahertz Xeon systems, 533 megahertz bus, the fastest PC money can buy. Same amount of memory, not quite as much disk, something that's not quite as good as a super drive, but we got as close as we could. And what do you think it cost? You can go do this today on Dell's website. Over $4,000. So from now on, anyone who tells you that Apple's high-end machines are more expensive than PCs, you can tell them where to look. The new PowerMac G5s, we're going to ship them in August. All 3 models. And that is the product with the system and the chip. So what kind of performance are we getting out of this thing? Well, I'm pleased to report that this is the world's fastest personal computer. Now let's prove that. To prove that, there's 2 places to turn. One is analytic tests, and the most respected tests in the world are called spec tests. And second is real-world applications.